Jorinda and Jorindel from 50 Famous Fairy Tales. There once was an old castle that stood in the middle of a dense wood. In the castle lived a very old witch. All day long she flew about in the form of an owl, but at night she became an old woman again. When a young man came within 100 steps of her castle, she turned him into a statue, and he could not move a step until she set him free again. But when a pretty maiden came within the distance, she changed into a bird, and the witch put her into a cage and hung her up in a large chamber in the castle. Now there lived at this time a beautiful maiden whose name was Jorinda. A shepherd whose name was Jorindel loved her dearly, and they were soon to be married. One day the two went for a walk in the wood, and Jorindel said, "We must take great care that we do not get too near to the witch's castle." It was a beautiful day, and the last rays of the setting sun shone bright on the white bark of the birches, and the turtle doves sang from pine trees. Suddenly looked around and discovered they had, without knowing it, walked right under the walls of the enchanted castle. Jorindel sank back in fear, turned pale, and trembled like a leaf. Jorinda, all unknowing of her plight, continued the song she was singing. The gray dove sings in the pine, sweetheart of mine. He sings to his mate of their love, of their love, of their. And suddenly the song ceased. Jorindel turned and saw that his Jorinda had changed into a nightingale. With a mournful tune, she just kept repeating the last note. Lo, lo, lo. An owl with fiery eyes flew around them 3 times and 3 times screamed, Twa, twa, twa. Jorindel could not move. He stood fixed as a stone, and could not neither weep nor speak, nor stir hand nor foot. Now the sun had gone, and the owl flew into a bush. At the moment later, an old witch came from the bush. She was pale and thin, with staring eyes and a great beak of a nose that almost met her sharp pointed chin. She mumbled something to herself, seized the nightingale, and went away with it in her hand. Poor Jorindel saw her take the nightingale, but could do nothing about it. At last the witch came back and sang with a hoarse voice, In a prison cage I have bound her, with my magic I'll surround her. Never more shall she be free. Hence, young lad, away with thee. Suddenly Jorindel found himself free. He fell on his knees and begged the witch to give him back his dear Jorinda. But she said she would never be free again, and to go away. He prayed, he wept, he sorrowed, but all in vain. At last he rose and went to a nearby village, where he found work tending sheep. Every day he came near the hated castle, as he dared thought longingly of his lost love. One night he dreamed he'd found a beautiful purple flower, and in the middle of it lay a costly pearl. He dreamed that he plucked the flower and went with it in hand into the castle. Everything he touched with it was disenchanted, and so he found his dear Jorinda again. When he awoke, he immediately hurried forth and searched over the hill for the purple flower. 8 long days he looked for it in vain, and on the 9th, just before the sun went down, he found the beautiful purple flower, and in it the center was a large dewdrop as big as a pearl. He plucked the flower and hastened to the castle. The magic flower protected him from the witch's power. Jorindel touched the gate with the flower, and it sprang open. He went in through the courtyard and heard a beautiful flood of music, of hundreds of birds singing in chorus. He followed the sweet sound, and at last he came to a chamber where the witch sat. Around her were 700 birds in 700 cages, and all the birds were singing to the ugly witch. When she saw Jorindel, she screamed with rage and stamped her foot, but she could not come close to him because of the flower. Quickly Jorindel went from cage to cage looking for his love, but alas, there were many, many nightingales. How then could he tell which one was Jorinda? While he was wondering what to do, he noticed that the witch had taken down one of the cages and was trying to tiptoe out with it. He leaped after her and touched the cage with the flower, and lo, his Jorinda stood before him. She looked as beautiful as ever, and he clasped her tenderly in his arms. At this sight, the witch flew into a fit and vanished in a puff of yellow smoke. Then Jorindel touched all the other birds with purple flower, and each one became a beautiful maiden. He led them all to their homes. Then Jorinda and Jorindel were married and lived happily for many years.